Shalom. This week we are reading Parashat Eikev, the third Torah portion in the book of Devarim. We are witness to the review that Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, is giving over to the children of Israel before he departs from them. And these Torah portions are so full of the heart of Moshe, all the things that were important to him, that he wanted to give over again on the deepest level. The review of their history, what had to be emphasized as far as their covenant with Hashem, the future, and many new ideas as well. And it's an incredible experience knowing that after a lifetime of such devotion and such an intimate bond that he felt with his people, in these Torah portions now we are receiving his legacy and everything that he knew he had to somehow succinctly compress into a little time, in a few words, he's giving over to them now forever. This week's Torah portion begins again with an exhortation to the performance of the commandments, and indeed the not warning, but the emphasis of the importance of not forgetting the commandments, the role that the mitzvot have in our lives. It's a major theme in this week's Torah portion. And Ekev, the first word, not the first word, the second word, the name of this parsha, and this shall be the reward when you hearken to these ordinances and you observe and perform them, is the translation of the first few words, but falls short a bit because our sages point out that there's something very, very specific and unusual about this word, Ekev. It's kind of being translated as this is going to happen when you hearken, when you listen. It's being borrowed, actually, to convey the idea of listening to the commandments and performing them. But the word Ekev is closely related on the root level to the word for heel, for the heel of the foot. It's the same word, really. And so there is a tradition regarding some sort of message that this verse is really conveying. And of course, the verse would be the real capsulization or microcosm of the whole parasha. There is a message that's being conveyed here, that this is being said with reference to a certain type of commandments and a certain particular human failing, foible, psychological pitfall that people suffer from, which is that we as people tend to, subconsciously maybe, I hope not consciously, we tend to, in our minds, downgrade certain of the commandments. We take them for granted. We take advantage of them. We don't think they're all that important. And the expression being used here, V'haya Ekev tishma'un, if you shall, this shall be the word. When you hearken to these ordinances, I mentioned it doesn't work. Ekev means the heel of the foot. The idea here is, well, you have to be particularly careful about those mitzvot that you actually step on, that we have a tendency to trample underfoot. And of course, it's a metaphor. The idea is there are certain commandments that maybe we don't think they're all that important. Who are we to measure how God looks at the things that He's given us to do in this world, to represent Him, to elevate life, to sanctify the world? He's given us a lot of tasks. Some of these things we might think, whoa, they're very virtuous, they're just so powerful, the motif is just so, grand. And then maybe there are some mitzvot that we think, well, this is kind of common, or easy, or not so complex, or simple, or not very romantic, or exciting, whatever. I don't know at this point. So these mitzvot, they're like, I'll do them, I won't do them, whatever. The reward can't be too great. So Moshe apparently is extremely concerned about this very phenomena, and he's saying to his precious people, the children of Israel, listen, don't forget to hearken not only to all the commandments, In fact, this idea of all the commandments is also something that's going to be repeated in this parsha. Don't forget, this isn't about the big ones, it's about everything. Even those ones that you think not so important, the ones that you might kind of step on, kind of think to yourself they're not important, kind of degrade. And what will happen when we hearken to these ordinances and you observe and perform them? Hashem, your God, will safeguard for you the covenant and the kindness that He swore to your forefathers. He will love you, bless you, and multiply you, and He will bless the fruit of your womb and the fruit of your land, your grain, your wine, and your oil, the offspring of your cattle and the flocks of your sheep and goats, on the land that He swore to your forefathers to give you. You will be the most blessed of all the peoples. Very beautiful blessings. And very much connected to the land of Israel. We read on about the fear that we might have about all of these nations that are here, that are more numerous than us. How will we be able to conquer them, to drive them out? God gives His assurances that we will be able to do that, that we should not fear them. And then at the beginning of chapter 8, again, we read the entire commandment, Kol HaMitzvah. See, before the Parsha opened up with this idea of Ekev, of those mitzvot, those particular commandments that we might tend to take lightly, to the extent that the verse is actually metaphorically saying that we trample on them. And now the Torah here, Moshe is reminding us the entire commandment that I command you today you shall observe to perform, so that you may live and increase and come and possess the land that Hashem swore to your forefathers. So there's this idea of the whole mitzvah. What is that? Kol HaMitzvah. What is that referring to? The whole width and breadth of the Torah. Here, being referred to as Kol HaMitzvah, the whole mitzvah. And even the most conventional commentators point out that this seems to be indicating that it's not a very nice thing for a person to pick and choose, to decide, well, this I'm going to do and this I'm not going to do. But here Moshe is saying, I'm talking about not only those commandments that you might trample, but all of the mitzvot altogether. So this is a major theme in this week's Torah portion, this idea of our commitment, appreciation, valuing, love of, diligence with performing all of the commandments, great and small. It seems that there are actually two major themes in this Torah portion. There's a lot of beautiful musar, of ethical exhortation. There's a lot of review of our history to get us to understand where we've come from. But there seem to be two themes, this theme of the mitzvot and the theme of the land of Israel. Indeed, some of the most beautiful description of the land is here in this parasha. For Hashem your God is bringing you to a good land, a land with streams of water, of springs and underground water coming forth in valley and mountain, a land of wheat, barley, grape, fig, and pomegranate, a land of oil, olives, and date honey, a land where you will eat bread, not because you're impoverished. You will lack nothing there, a land whose stones are iron and from whose mountains you will mine copper. You will eat and you will be satisfied, and bless Hashem your God for the good land that He gave you. And these verses, there are just volumes upon volumes of words that have been written to explain the depth, the spiritual aspects of these verses as well, because it works on many, many levels. So again, the beginning of chapter 9, Hear, O Israel, today you cross the Jordan to come and drive out nations that are greater and mightier than you, cities that are great and fortified up to the heavens, a great and lofty people, children of giants that you knew and of whom you have heard. Who can stand up against the children of the giants? Everything is coming to a crescendo here in these verses, telling us about our history, telling us what we've been through, telling us that we're coming towards the land. And either it's just advertising or some sort of nostalgia. Actually, it seems to be coming to a head. And we read in the beginning of chapter 11, we read these tremendous virtues of the land of Israel. And again, so you shall observe the entire commandment that I command you today, so that you will be strong and you will come and possess the land to which you are crossing, to possess it. and so that you will prolong your days on the land that Hashem swore to your forefathers to give them and to their offspring, a land flowing with milk and honey. And the beautiful details regarding the nature of the land of Israel. Until finally the parasha, which includes towards the end the second paragraph of Kriyat Shema, of the reading of the Shema that we say every day, which is such an important and pivotal cornerstone of the declaration of Jewish faith. Again, towards the end of the parasha we read, "For if you will observe the entire commandment that I command you, to perform it, to love Hashem your God and to walk in all his ways and to cleave to him, Hashem will drive out all these nations from before you, and you will drive out greater and mightier nations than yourselves. Every place in the land where the sole of your foot will tread shall be yours, from the wilderness and the Lebanon, from the river, the Euphrates River, until the western sea shall be your boundary. No man will stand up against you. Hashem your God will set your terror and fear on the entire face of the earth where you will tread as he spoke to you." We begin to understand that the two themes in this week's Torah portion, in Parashat Eikev, the theme of our adherence and diligence with the commandments, those that we would trample, and indeed all of the commandments, and the theme of the performance of these commandments in Eretz Yisrael, the idea of Hashem bringing us into the land, the idea of everything, all of our history, everything that we've been through, the entire review that we read in this week's Torah portion of the years in the desert, of coming out of Egypt, all coming to the climax of crossing the Jordan and going into the land of Israel. We begin to understand something very, very remarkable. The whole question about Ekev, the use of the word Ekev, and this kind of mysterious signal that there's something being referenced here. It is a tendency to have a certain almost contempt for or disregard for, to take lightly certain commandments that we don't value. And at the same time, this emphasis on the entire commandments ties in very, very beautifully with the second theme of the parsha, the emphasis on Eretz Yisrael. Because, as we can see with our own eyes, what is the commandment that we take so lightly? What is the commandment that we take for granted, that we don't consider to be perhaps as important as the others? It's really the whole commandment. It's coming in and living in the land of Israel. And so on a very subtle level, Moshe is exhorting not only that generation that is about to cross the Jordan, that is about to take leave of, that is about to live the dream and come into the land, but he's also speaking in the future to all generations about those things that we tend to have a certain disregard for. And he's speaking about the whole commandment. And what is that? What is that area that we may have fallen away from, that is now in a state of disuse or disrepair on the level of the consciousness of the entire people? It's kol ha-mitzvah, it's the entire commandment, and it is the very reason for everything, all the travail, all of the experiences that we went through as a nation from the Exodus of Egypt and on through the generations. It's coming into the land of Israel. And how remarkable and moving and poignant that the whole warning, exhortation, and summary that Moshe Rabbeinu is giving regarding how important it is for us to be on our guard, how important it is for us to keep up our fervor and love and dedication for the mitzvot, is so wholly connected to kol ha-mitzvah, the entire breadth of the intensity of the performance of the commandments, which this parsha makes so clear is to be performed in the land of Israel. What is the commandment that we, perhaps as a people throughout the generations, have taken lightly? The very fact that Hashem brought us out of Egypt to bring us into this land, the land that His eyes are constantly on, the land that is flowing with milk and honey, the land of the performance of the commandments, the land of the covenant, the land that He swore to our forefathers. The main commandments, the place of the performance of the commandments, the land of Israel.